Our brains evolved to survive in a very different world than the one we live in today. It has been thousands of years since we left our humble caveman roots and leapt on the fast train of achievement, status, and wealth. When we started to organize in sedentary communities and develop power structures that separated us into classes, we planted the seeds for modern capitalism and for our quest to have and be more. We now experience a never-ending race to the top, widespread societal illness, environmental imbalance, and increasing time indoors and separated from the natural world that was once our home. However, our wiring is still the same as it was when we lived in small traveling bands. The autonomic nervous system, ANS, is made up of two branches, originally designed to navigate the hostile conditions of the savanna. The sympathetic nervous system governs our survival responses. When the sympathetic branch is activated, the body mobilizes for attack, fight, or escape, flight. If neither of these tactics are successful, we become immobilized, freeze, as if to play dead or avoid detection. Parasympathetic. The parasympathetic nervous system governs our rest and digest and feed and breed responses. When we are in a state of parasympathetic activation, our heart rate is steady and rhythmic, our digestion is regulated, and we feel a sense of safety and rest. Perhaps you have noticed that when you're feeling anxious, stressed, or fearful, that your vision narrows, your stomach grinds to a standstill, and it can be hard to think clearly. This is because when you're in survival mode or experiencing a threat, your sympathetic nervous system is activated, and stress hormones are dumped into your bloodstream. Now imagine that you're an early human walking across the savanna, and you get a prickle of fear at the back of your neck, and the sense that there's a predator stalking you. Your senses go on high alert as you scan for threat. You may notice the twitch of a blade of grass, or a small subtle movement out of the corner of your eye. Your muscles tense, and instantly your body's survival response kicks into high gear. Your amygdala, a part of the brain that detects threat, sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which releases adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream. During this period of activation, the functions that are not needed for survival go offline, including digestion and the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, which is responsible for choice, decision-making, impulse inhibition, and cognitive control. When the PFC shuts down, this energy is redirected toward mobilizing our defenses. Our heart rate speeds up, and the blood flow to our limbs increases as we prepare to fight or flee. So if critical parts of our brain go offline when we perceive a threat, it is no wonder that we can have trouble making good decisions when we feel angry, scared, or stressed. This also explains why, when we are overwhelmed or under pressure, we are more prone to accidents, injury, and making mistakes. This was a very useful adaptation when we lived on the savanna. But now, we live in a world full of constant threat, hyperproductivity, and normalized anxiety, and many of us are walking around in a state of chronic sympathetic arousal. It's important to also remember that in our earliest days of reacting to the occasional threat of tigers, or activating our physical energy to hunt large mammals, we had long periods in between threats of rest and digest mode. Parasympathetic arousal is the state in which our bodies are designed to reside. Our parasympathetic nervous system is meant to be our baseline, a state of regulation and rhythm that is optimal for restoring the body's resources, replenishing our reserves, and allowing us to relax into the safety and connection that is available within our relationships and family life. We can activate the parasympathetic nervous system by orienting with our senses, taking deep and slow breaths through rhythmic movement, physical touch, laughter, meditation, yoga, music, walks in nature, and engaging in pleasurable activities. Though modern humans do not often experience being chased by a tiger, our world is filled with threats that keep us from enjoying parasympathetic restoration. Additionally, when we experience a trauma or ongoing threat to ourselves or others, our sympathetic nervous systems may become reactive or stuck on on. This can be experienced as anxiety, insomnia, chronic pain, hypervigilance, high blood pressure, an exaggerated startle response, constant worry or rumination, compulsive aggression, attention deficit disorders, and other mental and physical health conditions that are the body's response to chronic tension and fear. This is happening on a widespread level in our schools, workplaces, institutions, and families. And as a society, we are collectively experiencing higher levels of sympathetic nervous system arousal than our bodies are designed to handle. Many of the behaviors that keep us in a state of sympathetic arousal are celebrated within our culture and have become habitual and maladaptive in such a way that they add even more stress into our lives as we seesaw between extremes, creating a negative feedback loop that keeps us on the roller coaster of unhealthy coping and catastrophizing. The habit of worrying and overfocusing our attention on problems, threats, and future disasters makes sense, considering the conditions within which our brains evolved. Our attention is naturally pulled towards what is potentially dangerous in our environment so that we can keep ourselves alive. Perceived threat activates the sympathetic nervous system in the same way that an actual threat does, and threats to our sense of belonging are registered as just as hazardous to our survival as a predator crouched behind a bush ready to pounce. We are primed to notice the slightest twitch of a blade of grass and the smallest hint of negative intonation in our partner's voice the same way. The thing is, these are perceived threats based in our natural negativity bias, but often our life and belonging are not in immediate danger in the present moment. Understanding negativity bias. Based in our early evolution, this is the tendency to attend to, learn from, and use negative information more than positive information. Negative experiences elicit a strong and rapid response that was originally designed to detect threat and help us survive in a life or death environment. Try this. Bring to mind a recent situation when you felt good, happy, peaceful, loving, relaxed, or at ease. Notice the sensations that arise in your body. Can you name them? What do you feel physically as you explore your body for any signature of these pleasant emotions? Now, bring to mind a recent situation when you felt angry, upset, frightened, or disturbed. Again, notice the sensations that arise in your body. Can you name them? What do you feel physically as you explore your body for any signature of these unpleasant emotions? It's likely that with the unpleasant experience in mind, there are some pretty strong sensations that come into awareness, such as clenching, bracing, tensing, churning, heat, or discomfort. Chances are that this negative information in your system is more noticeable than the pleasant experience was. The reason unpleasant experiences are more noticeable is your inherent negativity bias, the body's way of letting you know something is wrong and needs immediate attention. When we perceive that we're in danger, whether physically or relationally, we are designed to notice. Even though we may feel the symptoms of acute fear, panic, and reactivity, many of our modern threats aren't really endangering us at all right now in the present moment. The person we may be worried about letting down or offending isn't even in the room with us, or the bill we are concerned about paying isn't due for another few weeks. That thing that so-and-so said the other day that hurt our feelings is still spinning around in our minds, but that person isn't anywhere in sight. But it has our attention, and we stress and feel anxious anyway, sending our sympathetic nervous system into action over and over again. Even if we do miss a payment or make a mistake, the world won't actually end, and we won't actually be eaten. It can be hard to remember this living in a traumatized world, governed by hypervigilance and perpetual fear-mongering. As a culture, we exist in a state of collective and chronic fight-flight, and our bodies have become habituated to reacting to triggers as if there is a predator around every bend in the road. Couple this with the uncertainty and unpredictability of the climate, prolific gun violence, discrimination, and the political world that we live in, and you have a recipe for nervous system implosion at every turn. The good news is that when we understand these basic mechanics of negativity bias and how the nervous system works, we can engage the brain in simple and counterintuitive practices that switch us out of habitual negative or fear-based thinking. One of the ways we can counteract chronic sympathetic arousal is to spend intentional time activating the parasympathetic nervous system on purpose, by attending to what's real and right in front of us, rather than focusing on our fears. With regular practice, we can even retrain our attention to return to a baseline of resting in what's good, safe, and nourishing. The more mental fitness we have in this area, the more resilient we are when faced with challenges. Our sensory awareness and basic human functions are a very effective place to cultivate this kind of awareness of what is already working for us. Even in the face of uncertainty, there are parts of our experience we can always trust, such as our breath, gravity, and the fact that we have a body that is always moving toward healing and keeping us alive. A brief arrival in the present moment and momentarily shifting attention out of worrying about the future or ruminating about the past can down-regulate our amygdala and bring our prefrontal cortex back online. The most basic of these practices is to take a full and complete breath, feeling the air fill the lungs, expanding the diaphragm, and noticing the movement of air in the body. Think of it this way: if we were being chased by a real tiger, there would not be time to stop and take a full deep breath with awareness. So therefore, when we do slow down and bring our attention to our senses, we can essentially hack our stress reactivity system and send our brain an instant message that there is no real and present danger. In receiving this signal, the amygdala downregulates and stops releasing stress hormones into the system, very quickly bringing our PFC back into operation and giving us the capacity to choose a response with all our faculties online. Try the following exercise using the acronym STOP the next time that you notice yourself feeling stressed or reactive. S. Stop what you are doing. Notice that the moment is stressful. T. Take a full breath, all the way in and out. Pay attention to the sensations of the breath. O. Observe what is present right now. Notice your inner and outer environment. Engage the senses and become aware of sensations in the body. P. Proceed. Choose a response and continue with awareness. A printable stop poster and a 3-minute press-pause practice are also available at fierceboundaries.com. While it can take as much as 15 minutes for the parasympathetic nervous system to fully engage, the more we practice this skill, the more accessible it becomes, and the more we increase our resilience. We can increase our mental fitness and our capacity to stabilize attention in the midst of stress by regularly orienting to the present moment and focusing on any internal or external object of attention, such as the breath, movement in the body, the sound of a bell, a stone held in the hand, or even a tree or cloud outside of our window. Studies on long-term meditators and habit change show that we can change the chemistry of our brain, grow new neural pathways, decrease our startle response, and greatly improve our well-being with this kind of attentional training. Reclaiming our attention and becoming the masters of our minds is a radical act of defiance against a corporatized system that profits from hijacking us and encouraging us to stay on the hamster wheel of overconsumption. When we are willing to set fierce boundaries around what we attend to and protect our mental real estate, we make a big leap in taking back our individual and collective power. By refusing to be numb, blind, and silent about the ways we're being hijacked and the harm that is being perpetuated on us, we can step firmly into the driver's seat of our own experience and begin the critical work of disentangling ourselves from the weight of systemic oppression simply by training ourselves to pay attention.